Okay, so for today, having a belt and a block is always useful for something, but a belt we will need. And we will start in Sukhasana with the crossed legs. We're going to do a sort of similar pattern to what we did last week, which I'm sure we all remember. All right, so let's all start with the right leg crossed in front, and I'll be the only one who has to remember which leg it was. And as usual, using those arms alongside, lengthening up, getting space between the vertebrae, space in the hip sockets. And then slowly releasing with the arms and letting the hands rest on the knees, palms down or palms up. See which way speaks to you this morning. And a nice long inhale and an even longer exhale. Dropping into your body, letting go of the rest of the day. In every breath, expanding the front, the sides, the back, the up, the down, big spherical round breath. And then let's reach out wide through the collarbones, through the fingertips, and breathing those arms up. Inhale and exhale, pouring out through the fingertips, long sides. Then we'll reach up to one side and the other, reaching down through the sitting bone into the floor. So you can be on your own timing. You don't have to be on my timing here. Maybe you're going a little slower or faster. Feeling that lift come all the way from the base of the spine. And a couple more of these. And then we'll pause with both arms overhead. Big stretch out of the hands. Stretch them out even more. And pressing down. And then once more, breathing those arms up. And we'll take a couple cactus pulls, pulling the elbows down, letting the upper chest lift. And lengthening back up. And doing that 2 or 3 more times. Really working the upper back. And then lift long and flat against the wall behind you. Keeping that breath going underneath. And then we'll finish with that. Both arms are up there overhead and slowly reaching forward. We're headed for the floor, reaching out, grounding back. And then in the next breath or two, we land on the floor, breathing across the back of the body. One more deep breath here. And then coming up, unfurling that spine, vertebrae by vertebrae, back up on top of the sitting bones, letting all that settle. And And then we will make our way down to the floor. So having your belt nearby. And you can come down any way you like, but maybe we'll take a nice slow roll down. So sitting near the front of your mat with the knees bent, rolling down, really grounding into the lower back. So if you want, putting your hands on the legs so you can continue slowly down, vertebrae by vertebrae, landing on the floor. And then let's slide those legs out to straight. And interlock the fingers, turning the palms up to the ceiling. Widen across the collarbones and the upper back. And then stretch those arms up overhead, long and flat along the floor. And then as you release the hands, bend the right leg in, pulling that right thigh into the chest, reaching long through the left leg. And then taking the belt there, and we'll put that around your right foot and extend that right leg up to the ceiling. Padagustasana number 1. Supta Padagustasana number 1. Sending that breath pouring out through both legs, out through the top of the head. And feeling a little bit of that strength of the core anchoring yourself to the floor. So we're being very active lying on the floor here. And then belt into the right hand. And we'll bring that right leg out to the diagonal side. So you can put your left arm out to the side. Maybe left hand on that left hip bone to encourage that to press down. Inhale and exhale, pouring out through that inner thigh, out through the heel on the right leg. And then down through the inner thigh on the left leg, your standing leg as it were. And then maybe a little pull back through that right inner thigh across the lower belly into the left hip. So there's also a flow back into the center of the body. Keep using that breath. And then bringing that right leg back up to the center, taking the belt off. Let's stretch the arms up overhead and we'll slowly lower the right leg down. Really reaching long through the right leg, anchoring the core, reaching through those fingertips. And then bringing the arms back down along the side. Get that belt out of the way. Bend the knees. And we will come up in a bridge pose. So rolling up, tucking the tailbone up, peeling up off the floor. And then you hit that first edge of how far you can go. Big inhale, making a little more space. Exhale, maybe that bridge pose lifts a little higher. You can keep the arms here alongside, maybe interlocking the fingers. Or you can also bend the elbows, taking the hands to that pelvis, giving yourself a little support and encouragement here as we take a few more breaths here in this bridge pose. And perhaps also acknowledging how differently your right and left legs might feel, since we've only done the right leg in the belt. One more breath here. And then rolling settling down, vertebrae by vertebrae, landing on the floor. And then let's roll ourselves back up to sitting. Stretch the arms overhead. Start rolling up, or any other means to get up that you want to use. Maybe holding on to the sides of the legs again to help ease yourself up. And here we are. So let's go back to Sukhasana. And this time with the left leg in front, which should be the other leg. And get a little lift. Rest the hands on the knees. Inhale and exhale, being in this moment. And then let's reach out wide through the collarbones, through the fingertips. Breathing those arms up and overhead. And let's do a couple reaches. Reaching up, reaching up. So we're doing the same thing, and yet it's different. Couple more. Both arms up overhead. Big stretch out with the hands. Pressing down wide. Breathing those arms back up. And then 3 or 4 cactus pulls in the elbows, really working the upper back. It's almost like you're doing a little cobra position sitting here. And then lengthen long and flat against the wall behind you. Notice are both arms working evenly. We have a tendency to lead with one arm or the other. Let's do one more. And then coming forward once again, taking your time, couple breaths to come over, reaching out, grounding back, and then we land on the floor. Inhale and exhale, finding that big round spherical breath again. Couple more breaths here. Maybe some squinching if you're looking up at me, I'm squinching. And then we'll roll back up, unfurling that spine. Inhale and exhale. Settling all of that in your body. And then here we go, back down to the floor. Setting up for your nice roll down, rounding back, vertebrae by vertebrae, sort of like a reverse bridge pose, holding on to the legs if you like. There we are on the floor. Slide those legs out straight, standing on the opposite wall. Let's interlock the fingers, maybe crossing the other finger over as we press the hands up to the ceiling, pressing down into the floor. Widen across the collarbones and the upper back. So when we're pressing up, we don't want to squinch. We also have a widen and press down at the same time. And then stretching the arms up overhead. Couple breaths here, reaching long and flat, anchoring that center of the body into the floor. And then let's release the hands, bending the left leg in, getting hold of that left leg, pulling that thigh in, reaching long through the right leg. And then getting the belt. And we'll put that left foot into the belt and extending the left leg up to the ceiling. Supta Padangusthasana number 1. Breathing through both legs. Very active, even though we're lying on the floor. And then we'll put the belt into the left hand, bringing it out to the diagonal side. And you can put your right arm out to the side, or maybe the right hand on the right hip, which is what I like to do. Supta Padangusthasana number 2. Reaching out through that left heel, lengthening from the inner thigh out. And then we're also lengthening down that right inner thigh out the inner heel. And then along with the lengthen out our left inner thigh, that left inner thigh is also drawing back in across the belly into that right hip, anchoring that down. So we have a stretch inward as well as a stretch going outward. So breathing deeply here, letting that breath do all those actions. Maybe you're thinking about 1 or 2 or 3 of them. Maybe you're just going to trust your breath and your deeper consciousness to do all of that. One or 2 more breaths here. And then bringing that left leg back up to the center. And taking the belt off. Let's stretch the arms up overhead. And then a nice, slow, long reach down with that left leg. Thumbs down to meet the right leg. Stretch a little longer. And then we will bend the legs. And once again, coming up in a bridge pose. Getting yourself situated, heels under the knees, tucking the tailbone up, rolling up. So go where you go. Deep breath, maybe there's a little more. And choosing your arm position here, interlocking the fingers, hands supporting the sacrum, maybe just arms alongside. And we'll take 5 or 6 more deep breaths here. Can you feel that breath nice and round? Pressing down evenly on both feet. 1 more breath. And then slowly rolling down. And then maybe moving your feet a little more forward. And we will roll back up to sitting, reaching up overhead. Rolling up. Maybe using the sides of your legs. And here we are. Let's just drop those knees out to the side in Baddha Konasana. So finding that inner thigh work, that lengthen out through the inner thigh, out the knees. And then that subtle pull back into the center, though actually in this position, you might notice the pull in is a little more, you can feel it a little more on the outside of the leg, which is what I do. But there's a stretching out, there's a stretching in, and then coming forward. So whatever words I say, whatever cues I give, whatever concepts, you always are adapting them for your body. Work with whatever I said, and then but feel free to think, oh, it works better if I conceptualize it this way in my body, or I actually feel it a little more here or there. And then coming up, and let's make our way to downward facing dog, Adho Mukha Svanasana. And as usual, once you're there walking the dog or anything else you want to do, you can have the feet hip distance apart or maybe a little wider. And then see if you can use what are some of our work there on the floor. That long extended spine with a little anchoring through the core, reaching through the heels like we had both legs in the belt. The strength of the upper arms from those interlocked fingers. And then finding the best downward facing dog you can do at this moment. Nothing moving but the breath. Then let's lengthen forward to the plank. Shoulder blades to the sitting bones out the heels, tailbone out the top of the head, long and flat against the ceiling. And then we're going to go to kneeling upward facing dog, drawing the upper chest a little forward, pulling the outer shoulders back, let the knees touch down. Maybe there's a little more lift up, shoulders going down, top of the head up. And then letting yourself sink down in the shoulders, And as we lift up again, think of it not so much a press down with the hands as a pull up through the top of the head. Let's do that twice more. Sinking yourself down, pulling up through the top of the head with the core, with the back muscles. And then once more. Sinking down. And then lifting up, pulling the shoulders back, wide, collarbones, another breath here. And then contract with a little cat back ripple, coming back to child's pose. And picking up the base of the hand there, maybe standing on the pads of the fingers for a moment, releasing the wrist joints, and then softening back. Inhale and exhale, breathing into the back of the body. And let's come back up in downward facing dog. And let's do that a little more smoothly with just one dip and lift. So you're always free to choose to do a traditional vinyasa instead, or to do both, or whatever you like here. All right, meanwhile, let's come forward to the plank. Deep breath. Upward facing dog, setting the knees down. Breathe, letting yourself sink down. And then lifting up with the top of the head through the core. And then pulling back to child's pose, a nice ripple. Lifting up the base of the hand there. Little gentle wrist flex in the other direction. And then softening a moment. And coming back up to downward facing dog. 3 deep breaths here. Then looking between the hands to jump a step forward. Into the concave, back halfway up. Folding over. Deep breath. And coming up to standing into the front body. Yawn, big lift up. Pulling that tailbone down. And a big reach down the sides all the way around to Namaste in front. Samastiti, steadiness. And let's come back over. Big lift up. And diving over. Concave back, folding over. So we're going to step back with the left leg. So we have our right lunge. Lengthen that lunge for a moment, and then we will come up in the high lunge. Lengthening up. Nice and simple, just taking a few breaths here. And then namaste in front, feeling those shoulder blades in the back, those strong sides of the body. Hands into the floor. Stepping back to the plank through the vinyasa, any version. Including none at all. And then we're all back in downward facing dog. And let's lift our right leg up, reaching long through the heel. Reach a little longer, and then through to the lunge. Inhale and exhale. So we have our right leg in front again. And let's Anjayasana, bringing that left knee down, coming up in the kneeling lunge. Inhaling up the front, exhale, pouring down the back. Namaste in front, strong shoulders. And then coming up onto your left leg, pivot that 90 degrees and walking the right leg out to straight. Parigasana, so you may need to bring that right leg a little forward. You don't want the leg behind the line of your hip. So rotating it out, top of the foot and knee to the ceiling, so it's like a triangle pose leg. Standing right up on top of your left leg, wide arms to the side. And then we'll side bend over the right leg. Inhale and exhale. You feel that right side, the lower side, lengthening as well. And as we come back up, see if you can take your right hand off the leg sooner rather than later, using that strength to come up. Let's try that lift up again. Coming over once more, just take a breath. And then finding that strength to bring you up. And retrieving the right leg, pivoting back to the front of your mat. And extending into downward facing dog. Take a breath. Looking between the hands to jump or step forward. Into the concave back, folding over. So I'm just going to the other side of my mat so I come out facing you again. And coming up to standing, big front body yawn. And big reach down and around. Strong into the center, hands in namaste. And here we go with the other side. Big inhale up and diving over. Concave back, folding over. So now we'll step back with the right leg into the low lunge. Find that low lunge nice and strong there to come up into the high lunge. Every breath and action. And then namaste in the center. And namaste into the floor. Stepping back to the plank through the vinyasa, downward facing dog. And we will lift the left leg up, reaching long through the heel, reaching a little longer, and then through to the lunge. And we'll bring the right knee down, and Jayasana, the kneeling lunge. Big circle of breath here. Namaste in front. And then coming up onto your right knee, swivel that right shin 90 degrees, walk the left foot out, maybe bringing it a little forward. That would be your body forward, more toward the edge of your mat, so that your heel's just in front of the line of the knee. Turning that knee and top of the foot up to the ceiling. So it's like the triangle pose, standing right up on top of your right leg, extending the arms out wide. And then side bending over to the left, Paridasana, the gate pose. And find some extension and reach in that lower left side as well. And then coming up, trying to pick that left hand up sooner rather than later. And so let's do that once more. Coming back over, taking a deep breath, lifting up. And then retrieving your left leg, pivot back to the front of the mat. We're going to pause here on both knees. And do Strasana, the camel pose, bringing the hands behind. So you can use the index finger and thumb around the top of just below the ridge of the pelvis, or maybe the fingertips down as we go up and over. So I'm always talking about my long arms, but we all have different length arms relative to our torsos, relative to our legs. So as I was saying before, on any cue things and words I say, you also have to adapt physical things to your body. All right, hopefully we're all breathing here. And then a big lengthen up through the top of the head. And bringing the hands down. Maybe a couple cats and cows. And then we will come back up into downward facing dog. Lengthening out through the lower back there. And looking between the hands to jump or step forward. Into the concave back, halfway up. Folding over. And coming up to standing, big lift up. Into the front body, yawn. Lift a little more. And pressing the arms down. All right, let's see if we can do Padangusthasana number 2, standing up. So getting your belt, so we're going to stand on one leg, take the belt out to the side, so you may want to go over to a wall. That would be me. So here we are. There we go. It's a good spot. And so let's see, if you've got that belt there, let's put the belt around the neck. Maybe we're not going to use it. Yeah, that's a good place for it. All right, so starting into Dasana. So getting yourself situated. And even if you're going to put the hand on the wall or a desk, remember you're doing the pose with your body, standing into Dasana, coming from there. All right, maybe gently putting that left hand on some support as we bring the right leg up. I'm going to put the right knee into the right hand first, a little flex of that right foot, taking it out to the diagonal side. So feeling that inner thigh going out into the knee, into the hand, and also pulling back in, anchoring into that left hip and down through the left leg into the floor. So we'll take a few breaths here. Maybe you can take your left hand and put it onto your hip. And then just bring that right leg down. So now we have two options. You can repeat that, or we're going to put the belt around the right foot. Getting that right leg up in front, and then we're holding the belt as we take the leg out to that diagonal side, and then you can extend the foot out in the belt. So we're going both out through that right inner thigh, and it's pulling back into the center, pouring down the left inner thigh, anchoring you into the floor. Oh, and we're trying to breathe at the same time. And then floating that right leg back down next to the left, we come to Tadasana. Deep breath. And then the other side. So maybe putting that belt around the neck. So we'll all do the bent knee version the first time. Take a moment being in Tadasana. So every standing pose is just a variation of this Tadasana. All right, and then bringing that left leg up. And we'll put the left hand into the left knee, bringing that leg out on the diagonal. And so I'm extending my knee into the hand. I'm pulling back into the right leg, down through the inner right thigh into the floor. Maybe balancing with your right hand on the hip. Or you can always just lighten up on the fingers if you're holding on to something. And then we will bring that left leg down, press the foot into the floor. So you can repeat that, or getting the belt, putting that around the left foot, doing your best to come back to Tadasana. Depending on the length of the belt, you may have to adapt this. And then we will bring that left leg up, taking it out to the diagonal side. And if you've got that belt there, extending out, Padangusthasana number 2 in the belt. Left inner thigh reaches out, pulls back in, goes down the inner right leg. And then we try to breathe at the same time. And floating that left leg down. Coming back to Tadasana. Maybe bringing the hands to Namaste, really coming into the center, using that breath, smoothing everything out. Balancing your right and left sides. And then if you are not on your mat, coming back to the top of your mat where we had been. And here we are. Let's breathe the hands up the center line. We're going to bring them to the interlocked fingers behind. Big reach wide, interlocking the fingers, lengthening up the front of the body to lift the chest, to lift the chin. Lift a little more. And coming forward, pressing out through the hands. So we'll take a few breaths here with the hands still interlocked. If you want to put a bend in the knees, go ahead. Nice deep breaths. And release the hands. Concave back, folding over. And we'll make our way back to downward facing dog through vinyasa or not. And then let's lengthen forward to that plank, long and flat against the ceiling. And then upward facing dog, pressing the tailbone down, bringing those knees down, and letting yourself sink into the shoulders. Lifting back up long through the top of the head using the core, and then bringing yourself down to the floor onto your stomach. And adjust the hands if needed, so we can do a little cobra here. Or if you want to bring the hands forward and do a long cobra, go ahead. Lengthening up, pulling those elbows back. And come down. We'll do the bow pose, bending the knees, reaching back. So maybe using the interlocked fingers or getting hold of the ankles. Pressing the ankles into the hands, lengthen to lift. Keep breathing. And then letting that go. Release the feet. Take a breath here on the floor. And let's peel ourselves back up to downward facing dog. Lengthening everything out. Lifting the right leg up. And let's dog at the high fire hydrant. So if you're feeling rambunctious today, maybe waterfall into the wild thing or not, or just holding that fire hydrant dog for 3 more breaths. And then we'll all extend our right leg back up behind us and through to the lunge. Coming up in the warrior number 2, the lateral lunge, Virabhadrasana number 2. Holding that nice and long. And let's go to the side angle, Parsva Konasana, and we'll all put our elbow on the knee. Feeling those long extending sides. And that strength so that you're not collapsing down into your right arm. And then maybe extending that right arm out like you're holding a block between the hands. Reaching, reaching, reaching. Now comes the hard part. Coming up, we're going to straighten our right leg. Inhale and exhale. Turn the feet to parallel. Big lift up, coming forward in the wide leg forward bend. Prasarita Padottanasana. Breathing, letting go of any tension in the face of the jaw. And then let's turn back to our right lunge. And stepping back through the vinyasa or not, and we'll all be back in downward facing dog. And I'm once again going to turn around the other direction so I come out facing you. All right, doing that on the left. Let's lift our left leg up. Dog at the high fire hydrant. Staying here and breathing. Maybe pulling it all the way over into a waterfall to the wild thing. And then we'll all extend our left leg out straight behind us again. And through to the lunge. Coming up in the warrior number 2. And settling into your breath, letting that breath deepen the pose. And then side angle Parsva Konasana, reaching out, elbow on the knee, right arm over the ear. So don't settle into your left arm, lift up out of it. Long, strong right side and left side. And then maybe reaching that left arm out. If you're holding a block and trying to reach it long and away, keep reaching and reaching, trying not to freeze into survival mode. All right, here we go. Hard part, inhale and exhale, straightening back up. Feet to parallel. And let's do the interlocked fingers again here, rolling the shoulders out. Lengthen up the front of the body to lift the chest, to lift the chin. Coming over. And then let's take a twist here. So we're going to twist the shoulders to the right, pulling the hands left, maybe a little bend in the left knee. So it's toward our back leg. And then straighten back to the center, other direction, pulling the hands right, twisting the shoulders right, a little bend in the right knee. And back to the center. Release the hands. And give a good press down for a moment with the hands into the floor. So you can take a little weight off the legs and really extend them. And then pouring back over. And then turning back to our left lunge. That's the front of the mat. Stepping back to downward facing dog, to the plank, maybe a through the vinyasa. And then once you're in downward facing dog, being a stretchy dog, maybe a little dog walking or indulgent squinging around here. One more deep breath. And then coming down, sitting back in child's pose. No. So let's do Matsyendrasana. So if you don't have that much time, so if you really wanted to spend more time lying on the floor, you could come down to the floor and drop the knees to one side. And then when we switch sides, you could drop the knees to the other side for your twist. Otherwise, let's all Matsyendrasana here. I'll face the front of my mat, and I'm going to do my real right leg. So the left leg comes down, the right leg crosses, the right foot crosses over, or maybe it's right in front of you, not crossed. Maybe the left leg straight. All right, here we are, long through the top of the head, twisting to the right towards your front leg. Inhale, lots of space, exhale and twist. You can do some variation with the arms, left arm across, half binding with the right if you want. And coming back to the center. And then we'll change the cross of the legs. Or if you're lying down, taking your knees over to the other side. And then we'll twist to the left if you're sitting. Inhale, lots of space. Exhale and twist. And then coming back to the center, disentangling your legs, and we'll all make our way down to the floor and into Shavasana. Sliding those legs out, giving them a little shake. And then choosing your arm position, maybe alongside, hands on the belly. Maybe a little out to the side, maybe even overhead, as long as your arm can rest nice and heavily in the floor. We don't want it hanging off the shoulder joint. And wherever you are, inhale, exhale, dropping inside. Inhale and exhale, letting the body go into the floor, trusting that floor to hold you up. Listening to the sound of your own breath inside. And as you focus on your breath, maybe you just become that wave of the breath. And then taking one more deep breath here. And moving the fingers and toes. Maybe circling the wrists and ankles. Stretching the arms up overhead. Bend the knees. And then making your way gently up to sitting. And sitting in any comfortable position with that long and spacious spine. Taking a few more moments, sitting quietly inside yourself. Namaste. Thank you for coming.